is sort of the starting of our final, I guess, review and send off for our PowerPoint module, right? And essentially the point of this is to just go over what we've learned as sort of a refresher before we do end the unit, right? So without further ado, let's get right into it. So PowerPoint is a presentation program that allows us to create dynamic slide presentations. These presentations can include animation, narration, images, videos, and much more, right? So realistically, as we mentioned, PowerPoint is a very visual medium, and there are a lot of opportunities for us as sort of a creator to express that, right? In terms of the PowerPoint interface, when we do open the PowerPoint for first time, we'll get what we call the start screen, right? Then from here, we'll be able to create a new presentation, choose a template, and access your recently edited presentations. Then from the start screen, we can locate and select blank presentation to access what we call the PowerPoint interface. So let's open this up. And then here we can see that same screen, and we'll just click on blank presentation, right? Now, if we break down the user interface, it's obviously a very user-friendly interface, I guess would be the best way to put it. It's really well designed, and it's designed and optimized for, how do you say this, efficiency, right? So everything is structured in a way so that you could get to the features you want in a manner that is relatively quick, right? So to begin with, we have the quick access toolbar, which sort of does allow us to access comments or access common commands no matter which tab is sort of selected, and we can customize the commands depending on our preference. So that's another thing worth considering, right? And this is our quick access toolbar up here, right? If you remember, we could add and remove different commands, right? Then we have the ribbon, which is right here, right? So this sort of contains all the commands we need to perform common tasks in PowerPoint, and it has several tabs, each with sort of several groups of commands that are related to the topic. Like homepage, we just have general commands. Insert allows you, if you remember, to insert different things into our PowerPoint. We have design, so we can, again, with like themings and whatnot, we can change that in design. We have transitions, right, and all that, right? Then finally, we have our tell me bar. So it is a little bit different. Like this is a tell me bar, but now it's been moved to just act as sort of a search bar. So it's right here. And that sort of allows us to find, a lot of commands that may not be entirely intuitive otherwise. Here in the corner, top right corner, we have sort of the Microsoft account. So we have all our details related to the Microsoft account up here. Then we have the ruler, which is located here, right in here. And it basically allows us to align text and objects on slides. Finally, we also have the slide pane right here, right? And this sort of allows us to view and edit the selected slide if we want to. Then we also, on the left side of the slide pane, so this is a slide pane, and this is the slide navigation pane. And this allows us to sort of view and organize slides in our presentation, right? Very useful, again, for navigating through our different slides, and also we're allowed to rearrange the order of our slides. Then we have vertical and horizontal scroll bars, so right here and right here, right? And then this allows us to scroll up and down or side to side. And to do this, we could just click and drag on it, right? So what does that look like? Again, we don't have any because we're not zoomed in realistically to an extent, but typically if we do increase the zoom here, we'll see the scroll bar sort of open up, right? And we can move up and down, albeit right now my computer is being a bit slow, but we know how that works. Then also on the bottom left, we just have the slide number indicator, which indicates how many slides are left in our presentation, along with the slides we are viewing. Then here we have the comments tab, so reviewers can leave sort of comments on any slide, and then we can click comments to view comments for the current slide. So remember, we went over comments and sort of why they're so useful. Then we have slide view options here, which are 4 ways to view a presentation. And we can click on each one to change the way the view of our presentation looks. Then we have zoom control here, so we can click and drag the slider to use the zoom control, and the number to the right reflects the zoom percentage. We have the ribbon at the top. So PowerPoint, if you remember, has a tabbed ribbon system instead of traditional menus, and the ribbon typically contains multiple tabs, each of them with several groups of commands, right? For example, the font group on the home tab contains commands for formatting text in our document, right? And then some groups also have like a small arrow here that we can click on for more sort of options. So let's just showcase that right here in the font tab. And look, we see a lot more sort of settings that we can access for our text, right? So that's another thing worth considering. Now we're talking about using the Tell Me feature. So if we are having trouble finding a command we want, we can use the Tell Me feature to help find it. And again, it's just like a regular search bar. You essentially just type what you're looking for, and a list of options will appear. Then you can use a command directly from the menu without having to find it on the ribbon. So let's just go here. Let's just type bold, and then it will allow you to bold text. So let's just show an example. This is text, and let's say I want to find the bold command. And now the text is bolded, right? So it just saves you time, especially for sort of commands that you don't know where they're located. The Tell Me feature is pretty helpful. Now we have the Quick Access toolbar. So located just above the ribbon, the Quick Access toolbar lets us access common commands no matter which tab is selected. And by default, they'll sort of include the save, undo, redo, and start from beginning commands, right? However, we can add commands depending on your preference, right? And to add commands from the Quick Access toolbar, we can click on the drop-down arrow, and then we'll see any command. We can just select the ones we want, right? Alternatively, if we wanted something a lot more specific, we could click on the More Commands button right here, and then we'll get a list, right? And we can add it. So let me just show that. So again, typically we'll have a decent amount of options here that we can turn on or off by clicking on it. But if we want to look for more, we click more commands, and now we have many commands. So let's just go to all commands just to show you the true scale. If we scroll, look at how many commands, right? So we could turn those on should we choose to. Then we have rulers, guidelines, and grids. So PowerPoint includes several tools to help us organize and arrange content on our slides, including the ruler, guides, and grid lines. These tools make it easier to align objects on our slides, and simply click the checkboxes in the show group, click the view tab to sort of view these options, right? So grid lines and guides. Let me just show you that because maybe I didn't elaborate on it too well. But look, if I click grid lines, we see grid lines, and then guides as well, right? And this is useful if you're very concerned about, like, I guess, aesthetic placement and making sure your slideshow is spaced properly. The grid lines and guides can help you do just that very well, right? So you can see like 4 quadrants, and then we can also see with the grid lines like individual sectioning to where we can insert things. Right, it's like, let me just give a quick example here. Let's say we want to make sure that we've put 2 images, but they're like equal like distances, right? We can do, let's just go shape, right? And let's just copy this and paste this, right? What we can do is we can use the grid lines again. So let's say we want to put it in like this quadrant, right? So we could just measure the grid lines, right? So it's like, okay, it's 2 from the top, or like 2 and a bit, right? Maybe 3-ish from the top. So 1, 2, 3, and then like 1.5 from the left, right? So again, we'll just go here, and then 1, 2, 3, like that, and we'll have other guidelines, and then you could just sort of move it up, right? And now they're somewhat similar in sort of arrangement, I hope. Yeah, and then just, right, so hopefully that makes sense. It's not something we touched on because a lot of individuals that use PowerPoint don't use it often, but it is there should you need to, right? And we also have zoom and other options, right? But there are different viewing options that can change the way your presentation is displayed. So again, we have normal view. slide sorter view, reading view, and slideshow view. So again, we can slide in and out to make our presentation easier to read. Then switching slide views is easy. Just locate and select the desired slide view command, and then in the bottom right corner of sort of the PowerPoint window here. And then zooming in and out, again, pretty straightforward. We can click and drag along this, or we could plus or minus command, right, to set the zoom level. We also have the backstage view, so it gives us various options, as we know, for like saving, opening, printing, and sharing our presentations. And to access the backstage view, we click the File tab on the ribbon, right? And we'll get sort of a list of options, right? Alternatively, you could go back by clicking the arrow, right? And finally, we have the info pane, which will appear whenever you access backstage view, and it contains information about the current presentation. So now we're talking about creating an opening presentation. So as we know, PowerPoint files are called presentations, right? Whenever we start a new project in PowerPoint, we'll need to create what we call a presentation, which it can either be black or from a template. We'll also need to know how to open an existing presentation. But to create a new presentation, we select the File tab to go to the backstage view, then select New on the left side of the window and click Blank Presentation. So again, what does that look like? File, New, and then Blank Presentation, right? That's how we do that. Then we have a template. So we've talked a lot and used a lot of templates, but it's basically a pre-designed presentation you can use to create a new slideshow quickly. Templates often include custom formatting and design, so they can save you a lot of time and effort when creating a new project, right? So to do this, we click the File tab to access the backstage view, then select New. We can then click a suggested search, so like right here, to find templates, or we could use sort of the search bar. So we could use these, like say like presentations, business, orientation, or we can search for what we're looking for. Then we can click on sort of a slide to review it, right? And if we like the preview of the template, we could click create and a new presentation will open up for you. But let's say we have an existing presentation and we want to open one that was saved. We go to the File tab, go to the backstage view and click Open. Then we can click Browse to go through files, to open files stored on your OneDrive. The Open dialog box will appear, and then you locate and select your presentation, then click Open, right? Now we also have compatibility mode. So sometimes there are instances where we may want to work with presentations that were created in earlier versions of PowerPoint, right? Like PowerPoint 2003 or PowerPoint 2000. When we open these types of presentations, they appear in what we call compatibility mode. So compatibility mode disables certain features, so you'll only be able to access commands found in the program that was used to create the presentation. So for example, if you open a presentation created in PowerPoint 2003, you can only use tabs and commands found in PowerPoint 2003. If you're wondering why this is, well, this is because the old file may not be able to handle the new changes, right? That's why they sort of disable it so no issues realistically occur. The image below, you can see at the top of the window that the presentation is in compatibility mode, and this will disable some current PowerPoint features, including newer types of slide transitions. And to exit compatibility mode, we need to convert the presentation to the current version type. However, if we are collaborating with others who only have access to an earlier version of PowerPoint, it's best to leave the presentation in compatibility mode so the format does not change. Now, if we want to convert a presentation to a different file type, we can also do that. We go in the File tab, right? And then we go to Convert, and then we can select our sort of file, right? And then just click Save. For saving presentations, so whenever we create a new presentation in PowerPoint, we'll need to know how to save in order to access and edit it later. As with previous versions of PowerPoint, you can save files to your computer, and if you prefer, you can also save files to the cloud using OneDrive. You can even export and share presentations directly from PowerPoint, right? In terms of PowerPoint, for save and save as, so PowerPoint offers two ways to save a file, and that is save and save as. These options work in similar ways with a few important differences. So save, when we create or edit a presentation, you'll use the save command to save your changes. You'll use this command most of the time when you save a file, and you'll only need to choose a file name and a location for the first time. And after that, we can just click save and it'll just overwrite your current file. Save as, however, will sort of create a copy of your presentation while keeping the original. So when we use save as, you don't need to choose a different name and or location for your sort of copied version. It is important to save your presentation whenever starting a new project or making changes to an existing one. Saving early and often can prevent your work from being lost. You'll also need to pay attention to where you save the presentation. So how do we do this though? We go to the save command, right? So file, so backstage view, then we go to save as, right? Then we'll get a dialog box that opens up. So you need to check so save as, and then we need to choose where to save the file. So we can click browse to choose location on our computer, or you could go on OneDrive right here, right? The save as dialog box will appear. So we select the location where we want to save the presentation and enter a file name and then click save. And the presentation will be saved, and you can click on save command again to save your changes as you modify the presentation. And now, if we want to make a different copy, let's say we want to distribute 2 copies of a thing, that's also easier. We need to use save as, right? So to do this, we go to the save as command in backstage view, just like when saving a file for the first time. Then we'll need to choose where to save the file and give it a new file name. Then again, if we do want to change the default file location, like we don't want it to be OneDrive or we want it to be in a different folder, right, we can go to the File tab, go to the backstage view and click Options, then select Save, and then check the box next to Save to Computer by default, and then click OK. So again, how do we do that? Backstage view, Options, Save, and then we have our default file location here, right? Then we have auto recover. So sometimes you're working on something and then maybe your computer shuts out or the data corrupts, right? And you can't access it. Thankfully, we do have auto recover, which allows us to pull any autosave versions of a copy as sort of a backup, right? Pretty useful. And to do this, we go to, it will typically show in a tab right here when we open PowerPoint, and you can click open to open it. But if we don't see the file we need, we can browse all autosave files from the backstage view, select the File tab, and then click Manage Presentation and choose Recover Unsaved Presentation. So let's go here, File, right? It should be under Info, Manage Presentations, and we can recover it right there, right? Then to export presentations, obviously there are many ways to export a file. So we could do it as a PDF, right? We could do it as a video, right? Or even like a package for a CD. Alternatively, we could do it as handouts, right? Or other file types, right? So that's how we can do that. And then to export a presentation, the process is generally very, very similar, right? So again, we go to File, go to Export, and then change file type. Then we can select the file type we want, right? And then just click Save As, and the Save As dialog box will appear. So then you just click Save, right? So how do we do this again? File tab opens up Backstage View, right? And then we click Export, and then we choose the desired option, right? In our example, we select Change File Type. Then we select the file type and click Save As. So that's what's happening here, right? In this case, it's a PowerPoint 97 2003 presentation. And then the Save As dialog box will sort of appear, right? So we select our location and then save it. So sharing presentations, again, we did talk to an extent about collaborating, right? And PowerPoint does make it easy to share and collaborate on presentations using OneDrive. In the past, if we want to share a file with someone, we could send it as an email attachment. And while this is convenient, this also creates multiple versions of the same file, which can be difficult to organize, right? Especially as you start to share it with more people, it becomes a whole process, right? However, when we share a presentation from PowerPoint, we're actually giving others access to the exact same files, This lets us and other people that we share with edit the same presentation without having to keep track of multiple versions. To share a presentation, you go to the File tab, then you go to Share. In the Share panel, you can invite individuals from there, right? So like enter their email or name, and then click Share. Now we're getting on to slide basics. So every PowerPoint presentation is sort of composed of a series of slides, right? And to begin creating a slideshow, you need to know the basics of working with slides, like inserting a new slide, changing the layout of a slide, arranging existing slides, and changing the slide view, along with adding notes to a slide. So in terms of editing or understanding slides and slide layouts, when we insert a new slide, it will usually have placeholders to show you where content should be placed, right? And like this is like a placeholder right here, right? And different slides will have different layouts for placeholders depending on the type of information you want to include. Whenever we create a new slide, you need to choose the slide layout that fits your content, right? Of course, placeholders can contain different types of content, including text, images, and videos. And many placeholders have thumbnail icons we can click on to add specific types of content, right? To insert a new slide, again, right, we go to the Home tab and we go to New Slide. So if we click on this drop down, we can select a specific slide layout, or we could sort of duplicate selected slides, slides from an outline, or reuse slides, right? And then once we've clicked on one, then we'll get the slide open up and we can click on things and start typing if we want, or we can click on the sort of icons in the placeholder to sort of insert something like a picture or chart, right? Of course, to change the layout of an existing slide, we click the layout command and then choose the desired layout. And to quickly add a slide that uses the same layout as the selected slide, click the top half of the new slide command. Then to organize slides, in the slide navigation pane, there are a lot of sort of settings that makes it easier to organize our slides. From there, we can duplicate, rearrange, and delete slides in our presentation. So if we want to duplicate and if we want to copy and paste a slide quickly, we can duplicate it. How do we do this? Well, we right click, right? And we duplicate slide and it will sort of duplicate it for you. You can also do this with multiple slides. So it's not just one slide. You could shift select multiple slides and have them duplicated. We can also move slides by just clicking and dragging it to the desired position. Finally, we can also delete slides. So if we want to remove a slide from a presentation, we can delete it. So we just select the slide we want to delete and then press the delete or backspace key. To copy and paste slides, if we want to create several slides with the same layout, we can copy paste it. So again, how do we copy paste? Control C and then select where you want it to be placed and press Control V and it'll paste it for you. Sometimes we may find a slide layout that like maybe doesn't fit what we want, right? Like maybe we have too many or too little placeholders, right? Or you might also want to change how the placeholders are arranged on the slide. Fortunately, PowerPoint makes it easy to adjust slide layouts as needed. So we go to adjusting placeholder, right? So we can click on a placeholder. So let me just show you, right? So we could like click on it. So if we click on it, we select the placeholder, right? That's what the first point is, right? We can also move our placeholder by clicking and sort of dragging, right? That's the other. So again, just clicking and dragging. We can resize by sort of dragging the corners here, making them bigger, making them smaller. Finally, we can delete them by clicking something like backspace, right? And it's no longer there. And we can add a text box. So again, this is our first instance of using the Insert tab, but if we want to add a text box, right, again, what do? Well, we go to the Insert tab, then click Text Box, and then click and drag our text box, and then we can sort of type in it. I just create a new slide, let's go Insert. And there we go. Right, pretty straightforward there. But we can also use a blank slide, right? So if we want to sort of customize the slide ourselves, or we have a specific direction we want to take the slide in that involves it being blank, we could do that by going to New Slide and then choosing blank, right? Keep in mind that if you choose a blank slide, there won't be like the predefined layouts, right? So that's another thing worth noting. Finally, to play the presentation, let's say we've created a great presentation and we're ready to present it. Well, we could go to the sort of start from beginning command or quick access toolbar and click on that. Then again, we can advance to the new slide by clicking our mouse or pressing the spacebar on our keyboard, or we can also use our arrow keys, right? We can press the escape key to exit presentation mode, right? But let's just go here. Another way to sort of play a presentation is go slideshow and then from beginning or from current slide if you don't want to use a quick access toolbar or if this is not up there, right? Then we can also customize slides. So if sizing is an issue for slides, we can also fix that. Typically, most slides use a 16:9 or widescreen aspect ratio, right? However, there are sort of some monitors that not so much anymore, but they maybe use a 4:3 ratio, right? Then we can just go to design, slide size, click on the drop down, and then select our ratio. And we can also set a custom one if we want to do that as well. Then, if we're talking about sort of formatting the slide background, by default, all slides in our presentation use a white background. And it is easy for us to change the background style for some or all of our slides. And backgrounds can have a solid gradient, pattern, or picture fill. In order to change the background, we go to the Design tab, then click the Format Background command, and then we can select our options. So whether that's like gold fill or light gold, whatever, and then it will change, right? And we can apply to all to change it. So let's just go through this. Right, so we go here, slide size, we can change it 4:3, right? And we can also format the background. So let's do something solid fill, like purple, right? And there you go, right? And then apply to all, and it should apply it to every slide, right? So that's another thing worth mentioning. Then we can apply a theme. If we remember, themes are a predefined combination of colors, fonts, and effects that can change the look and feel of our entire slideshow. And different themes also use different slide layouts, which can change the arrangement of our existing placeholders. To do this, again, go to Design tab. Then we have sort of themes here. We can click on sort of the arrow to view more, and then select ours, the one we like, and then it will be applied to our presentation. So again, if we look at that, we're already in the Design tab. Click on the drop down, select one, and now it's applied to all, right? All right. All right, picking up where we left off, we're discussing text basics, right? So if we are new to PowerPoint, we would need to learn the basics of working with text, right? So in this sort of lesson or section, we'll learn how to cut, copy, paste, and format text, right? To select text before you can move or arrange text, we'll need to select it, right? And to select it, we just click next to the text we want to select, drag our mouse over the text, then release it, and it will select our text. So in terms of what this looks like, it'll look like this. So let's just create a new slide. This is new text, right? And what we can do is just highlight, right? And now technically it is selected, right? So pretty easy there. Nothing that you haven't really been exposed to when you're sort of working with a computer in general, right? Copying and moving text, right? So we also have the ability to copy text that's already on the slide and sort of place it somewhere or place it elsewhere, right? So we have cut and paste and then drag and drop, and we can also move it. So to copy and paste text, we select the text we want to copy, then click the copy command on the home tab. Alternatively, we can press Control-C, which is the very common command for copying, right? And place the insertion where we want the text to appear, and then click Paste or Control-V. So again, little example here. This text will be copied, so let's just copy this. So Control-C, or for the sake of representation, let's click on the copy button. We'll enter a new line and click Paste. Alternatively, again, we can press Control-V and it will do the same thing, right? Now we have cutting and pasting. So cutting and pasting, as we remember, functions the same way as copy and pasting. The only distinct difference is that it removes it from the original location where you copy from, right? So what does this look like? So say I wanted to cut this text and put it as my fourth bullet point. Well, technically it would become my third, but if I press cut, we see that it removed the original bullet point. But if we go here, we'll sort of see it. But let me just cut this. Let me just change it so it doesn't look like um, we've sort of thing. So let's say cut, and we'll see this will disappear, right? And now if we click paste again, we'll see this text will be cut. So that's the main difference. But that is something we all should be familiar with by now. Typically, the command for cut is also Control X, right? As you can see here, then copy is Control C, and then paste is Control V. If you don't really want to navigate to the clipboard sort of section, right, you could just use those commands, which honestly, for using those commands, that is like the common way of doing it, because it's sort of a standard across the computer. Now we can drag and drop text. So we select the text we want to move and then click and drag it to the desired location, and the text will appear in sort of the new location. So in terms of what that looks like, let's go like here and let's sort of move it up at the end. And there you go, right? And then let's move this down right here, right? And then that's how you sort of do that. Now in terms of applying themes. So we've talked a lot about themes. We've talked a lot about themes, and we've also talked a lot about sort of I guess visual identity or the visual look of a slide, right? And that's why themes are very, very important. And a theme is sort of a predefined combination of colors, fonts, and effects. Different themes also use different slide layouts, right? And we've already been using a theme, even if we didn't know it. So like as we know or may not know, the default Office theme is a theme, right? And we could choose from a variety of new themes at sort of any time, giving our presentation a consistent and professional look. In terms of what a theme is, well, a theme is a predefined combination of colors, fonts, and effects, and different themes also use different slide layouts. We've already been using a theme, right? So that's been repeated. Then each theme uses its own set of slide layouts, and these layouts control the way our content is arranged, so the effect can be dramatic. And in the examples below, we can see that, the placeholders have changed, fonts and sort of colors are all different, right? And now, in terms of applying themes, each PowerPoint theme, including the default Office theme, has its own theme elements. And these elements include theme color. So we have sort of 10 theme colors along with darker and lighter variations. So this is, remember how at the end of sort of our module, we talked about like altering theme colors and how even if we want to create a custom theme, we could really just pick and choose these 10 colors, right? Hopefully that sort of sounds familiar. Then we have theme fonts, right? So there typically are 2 theme fonts available at the top of the menu. So again, it'll be like headings and body. And of course, if we want to change the font on the theme, as you remember, we did cover how to do so. Then we have theme effects. So these affect the preset shape styles, right? You can find shape styles on the Format tab whenever we select a shape or smart art graphic. And when we switch to a different theme, all these elements will update to reflect the new theme, right? And we can drastically change the look of a presentation within sort of a few clicks, right? So again, and all themes included in PowerPoint are located in sort of the themes group on our design tab. Themes can be applied or changed at any time. And to apply a theme, we go to the design tab and then click on the themes group, and each image will represent a theme, right? Then on the more drop down, we can see all available themes, and we select the desired theme and it will be sort of applied. So let's just go, so design, right? And we have a bunch of themes and we could just go like this. And now as you can see, the theme changed, so like the overall design, the colors, the fonts changed, and alternatively, even the placeholder of our slide here. So if we go back, we see it's just regular, and we'll go like this. The overall sort of structure of this specific slide has also sort of changed, right? Okay. Now we can apply transitions, right? So if we've ever seen a PowerPoint transition that has had special effects between each slide, we've seen what we call slide transitions. A transition can be as simple as fading to the next slide or as flashy as an eye-catching effect. And PowerPoint makes it easy to apply transitions to some or all of your slides, giving your presentation a polished or professional look. In terms of transitions, there are 3 categories of unique transitions to choose from, all of which can be found on the Transitions tab. So again, subtle, these are the most basic types of transitions, and they use simple animations to move between the slides. We have exciting, these use more complex animations to transition between slides, and while they are more visually interesting than subtle transitions, adding too much can make your presentation look significantly less professional. However, when used in moderation, they can add a nice touch between important slides. Then we have dynamic content. So if we're transitioning between 2 slides that use similar slide layouts, dynamic transitions will move only the placeholders, not the slides themselves. When used correctly, dynamic transitions can help unify your slides and add a further level of polish to your presentation. And to apply a transition, we select the desired slide from the slide navigation pane, and this is the slide that will appear after the transition. Then we click on the Transitions tab and locate the transition to the slide group. Then we can click on this More drop-down, right, to display all the transitions, and as you notice, it's sort of grouped by their sort of category of transition. And we can click a transition to apply to the selected slide, and this will automatically preview the transition. We can also use the Apply to All command in the timing group to apply the same transition to all slides in our presentation, and keep in mind that this will modify any other transitions we've applied. Try applying a few types of transitions to various slides in our presentation. We may find that some transitions work better than others depending on the content of your slides. So let's just go into that really quick. But first, to preview a transition from the selected slide, we could use sort of the preview button here, or we can click this star on the slide where the transition is to play it. So let's just show those 2 slides off. So let's add transitions. Let's just go flash, right? And then to preview it, again, we can click this, or we could click this, right? Either works. Now we can modify a transition, so we can quickly customize the look of a transition by changing its direction. We select the slide with the transition effect we want to modify, then click the Effect Options command and choose the desired option, right? These options will vary depending on the selected transition. The transition will be modified in a preview. The transition will appear, and some transitions do not allow you to modify the direction. So it does sort of, I guess, vary. I think like this one has it, right, where we can like control the direction in which, right? But whereas something like the flash, I don't believe has one, right? But like fall over, it has one as well where we can control the direction in which it falls, right? Okay, moving on. Now to modify the transition, the transition duration, we select the slide with the transition we want to sort of modify. Then in the duration field in the timing group, we just want to enter the desired time for the transition. In this example, we'll do it to like half a second to make the transition faster. So again, right here, timing, well, duration 2 seconds, that's way too long, so let's preview it. Now you see it's a lot faster of a transition. Now we can also add sound. So again, this is in the timing group, but also in sort of it's in the sound group in the timing, or in the sound drop down in the timing group. So we can click a sound to sort of apply it to the selected slide and then preview the transition to hear the sound, right? And sounds, one thing to note, just like transitions are best used in moderation, applying a sound between every slide could become overwhelming or even annoying to an audience when we're presenting our slideshow, right? So that's one thing you want to sort of consider or keep in mind, right? So again, here's a sound. I don't want to apply one because it will probably be very, very loud on the recording, but you could just click it and select it, right? And then to remove a transition, we select the slide with the transition and then just choose none from the transition to the side group, and then it will be removed. And then to remove transitions from all sides, we apply the none transition to all sides and then click apply to all. So now we're talking about advancing slides. So normally a slideshow view, we would advance to the next slide by clicking your mouse or by pressing the spacebar or arrow keys on your keyboard. The advanced slide is setting in the timing group allows the presentation to advance on its own and display each slide for a specific amount of time. This feature is especially useful for unattended presentations, such as those at a trade show booth. To advance slides automatically, we select the slide you want to modify, locate the timing group on the Transitions tab. Then under Advanced Slide, uncheck the box next to the on mouse click. Then in the After field, enter the amount of time you want to display in each slide. Let's say we want to sort of advance a slide after a minute 15. We can type in a minute 15, right? Then we can select another slide and repeat the process until all slides have your desired timing, or you can press the Apply to All command to apply the same timing to your slides. We need to advance to the next slide before an automatic transition, and we can always click the mouse or press the space bar to advance the slides as normal. So in terms of managing slides, wait, let me just show that as well. So again, right here, advanced slides, we can set it to after and then enter, say like a minute 15, right? And then it will advance after a minute 15 if no mouse click is detected prior. We can also add more slides to a presentation. As you add more slides to a presentation, it can be difficult to keep it organized. Fortunately, there are tools PowerPoint offers us that can sort of help us organize. The first one is slide views. So PowerPoint includes several slide views which are useful for various tasks. The slide view commands are located in the bottom right of the PowerPoint window. And there are 4 main slide views. So we have the normal view. So this is the default view, right? This is what we typically see when we go and edit slides. So that's up here, right? Then we have the slide sorter view. And in this view, you see a thumbnail version of each slide. You can drag and drop, them to organize them. Then we have reading view. So this is as if like think you're reading, you're just looking through your presentation. Then finally we have slideshow view. So this is what your audience will see when you click present on a slideshow, right? We can also press F5 on our keyboard to start from the beginning. And a menu will appear in the bottom left corner when you move the mouse. And these commands allow you to navigate through the slides and access other features such as the pen or the highlighter, right? So first, we also have the outline view. So the outline view shows our slide text in outline form, and this allows us to quickly edit the slide text and view the content of multiple slides at once. We could use this layout to review the organization of our slideshow and prepare to deliver our presentation. To view an outline from the View tab, click the Outline View command. An outline of your slide text will appear in the slide navigation pane. We can type directly in the outline to make changes to our sort of slide text. Then we have slide notes. So right here we have the Notes tab, right? And they're often called speaker notes, and we can use them to store notes for our presentation, right? And if we have another sort of monitor, then in that case, that monitor will display these notes in the presenter view, right? So we can sort of make references to them. If we click the Notes command at the bottom of the screen to open the Notes pane, we can click and drag the edge of the pane to resize if it's desired. Then click the Notes pane and begin typing to add notes. We can also access the Notes page view to edit and review our notes. Just click the Notes page command from the View tab, and then from here you can type the notes in the text box below each slide, right? We also have slide sections. So if we have a lot of slides, we can organize them in what we call sections to make our presentation easier to navigate. Sections can be collapsed or expanded in the slide navigation pane and named for easy reference. And to create slide sections, we go to Section right here, and then click Add Section. So we click on the slide first and we want to add a section. Then we add section, right? And then just untitled. And then what we can do is rename it by clicking on it, right? And then sort of rename section, right? Then type a new name and add as many sections as we need. And then you could just click, if you want to remove it, you could also click Remove Section command as well. But let's just walk through this. So first, the notion of speaker notes right here. Obviously, we can expand this. Right, this is a speaker's note. Cool. Right, now we're talking about sections. So let's say we want to add a section on this side. We can add a section. Then we'll do, right, and we can obviously click on it to expand it and unexpand it. And we can also rename by right-clicking rename. So, right, and that's sort of how you do section in a simple way, right? All right, moving on. So now we're talking about find and replace. So when we're working with longer presentations, it can be difficult and sort of time consuming to locate a specific word or phrase. And PowerPoint can automatically search our presentation using the find feature and allows us to quickly change words or phrases using the replace feature. So to find text from the home tab, we click the find command and a dialog box will appear, and enter the text you want to find in the find what field, and then click find next, right? Now if the text is found, it will be selected, and we can also use Control F to find it. So let's go right here, find, we can go find and just say text, and it'll mark 3 instances, right? Or we can press Control F. So let's go here, Control F, and it opens the same sort of window here as well. And yeah, but we also have replace. So let's say we've repeatedly made a mistake throughout our presentation, like misspelling someone's name, or that you need to exchange a particular word or phrase for another. What we can do is we could use the replace feature to make quick revisions, right? So how do we do this? Well, from the home tab, again, we go to the replace command. Now, one thing to note, it has been integrated into one command, so the button will be find and replace, right? A dialog box will appear, so we type the text we want to find in the find what field, type the text we want to replace it with in the replace with field, then click find next. If the text is found, it will be selected, and we just want to review the text to make sure we want to replace it. If we want to replace it, select one of the replace options, and replace will replace individual instances, replace all will replace every instance, right? And the text will be replaced, right? So let's just look at what this looks like. So again, let's replace text with book, right? So let's look at replace. So we see these 3 instances. Let's go replace, and now book has been sort of replaced, right? Now, alternatively, what we could very much do is click replace all and replace these remaining 2 instances. And now, look, we've successfully done that. So that's one thing worth considering. Now we're talking about printing. So even though PowerPoint presentations are designed to be viewed on a computer, there may be times where you want to print them. Or we can even print custom versions of a presentation, which are really helpful when presenting our slideshow. The print pane makes it easy to preview and print our presentation. In terms of print layout, we have several layouts to choose from when printing a presentation. The layout we choose will most likely depend on why you're printing the slideshow, right? There are 4 types of print layouts. So we have full page slides. So this prints a full page for each slide in our presentation. And this layout is most useful if you need to review or edit a printed copy of your presentation. Then we have notes pages. So this prints each slide along with any speaker's notes for the slide. And if we've included a lot of notes for each slide, we could keep a printed copy of the notes with us while presenting. Then we have an outline. So this prints an overall outline of the slideshow. We could use this to review the organization of our slideshow and use it to prepare to deliver your presentation. Then we have handouts. So this prints thumbnail versions of each slide with optional space for notes. This layout is especially useful if you want to give your audience a physical copy of the presentation. And the optional space allows them to take notes on sort of each slide, right? So that's another thing worth noting. Now, in the context of actually printing, it's something we're somewhat familiar with, right? So let's just go. To access the print pane, how do we do it? Well, we go to File, right? And then we go Print, and then we can choose a desired printer and print range, right? Then we choose like sort of desired print layout and the color settings, and when we're done, we can click Print, right? So what do? We go to File, then we can go to Print, right? And then we can see our printer. We can check like what we want to print, how we want it to look, like whether it's a notes page, an outline, right? Or even just how many slides to a page, right? And overall sort of print settings. If you remember, we probably covered a lot of these as well in sort of the Word unit, right? And this is no different, right? In the context of sort of printing and its importance, right? All right. So moving on. Now, presenting a slideshow. Once our slideshow is complete, we do need to learn how to present it to an audience, right? Now, PowerPoint offers several tools and sort of features to help make our presentation smooth, engaging, and professional. Presenting a slideshow. So before presenting a slideshow, you need to think about the type of equipment that will be available for your presentation. Many presentations um, many presenters, use projectors during presentations. So you might want to consider using one as well. I mean, in all honesty, anytime I've done a presentation, if it wasn't on Zoom, typically I was using a projector, right? So that's one thing to consider. And this allows us to control and preview slides on one monitor while presenting them to an audience on another screen, right? So again, let's say I have a projector just past this wall and I have a monitor in front of me. Well, the actual slides will be presented on the slideshow. Then on my main monitor, I will be seeing like the speaker's notes screens, right? So I can see everything I need to. Now to start a slideshow, we could click start from beginning on our quick access toolbar or press the F5 key at the top of our keyboard, right? Or we can also select the slideshow view command in the bottom here to begin a presentation from the current slide. Alternatively, we could also go to slideshow tab for a bunch of other settings. So we can go from beginning, from current slide, then we can present online, custom slideshow, and all those sorts of different settings that you could potentially end up going with. Now, in terms of slideshow commands, to advance and reverse slides, we can advance to the next slide by changing our mouse or pressing the spacebar on our keyboard. And we can also use the arrow keys on our keyboard to move forward or backward through the presentation. To stop a slideshow, you can exit presentation mode by pressing the escape key on our keyboard. We can also click the slideshow options button in the bottom left and select end show. Now, in terms of the presentation tools and features, PowerPoint does provide convenient tools we can use while presenting our slideshow. For example, we can change our mouse pointer to a pen or a highlighter to draw attention to items in our slides. And in addition, we can also jump around on slides in our presentation to access other programs from our taskbar. So to show the taskbar, we can click on the three dots and then go show taskbar. And sometimes you may need to access internet or other files, right? And taskbar will allow you to do that. We can also locate and select the slide options button in the bottom left corner, right? And then we can select screen and then show taskbar, right? And your taskbar will sort of appear, and then you can open up your sort of video or whatever you wanted to show, and then close it off again to get back to the presentation. Then we have slide options. So we can access any of the menu items by right-clicking anywhere on our slideshow. So again, let me just show you what this looks like if we remember, right? So we have sort of, options like show presenter view, screen, whatever. But also here in the bottom left corner, we can also access additional settings along with sort of subtitles that are relatively accurate and all that. If you remember, we did cover this as well in class, right? And then now, moving back. Yeah, now we're talking about slide options. So yeah, that's what we just showed. And then to skip a non-adjacent slide, we can click on this button right here, right? And we'll see sort of all our slides in a thumbnail view, right? And we can quickly hop to the one we need or wanted, right? So pretty straightforward there as well. Pretty great. Now, to access drawing tools, so our mouse pointer can act as a pen or a highlighter to draw attention to our slides. So we locate and select the pen tools, and then we can do a pen or highlighter, right? So we can click and drag the mouse to mark our slides, right? And we can also press Control P on our keyboard to access the pen tool while we're presenting, or we can use the laser pointer to sort of draw attention to certain parts without marking up our slides, right? So we're not actively drawing on them, right? So let's just look at that really quick. Let's go back here. Go pen. We can go pen. Right? We can see that. We have a highlighter. Right? Which can sort of act as a highlighter. And finally, we have sort of the laser pointer, which, if we go to the next slide, right, we could show, like, point things out, right? Like this is what we're referring to, yada, 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 right? Pretty straightforward there, hopefully, right? And then in terms of, that brings us into our next point. So if we want to erase ink markings, we can click erase ink on all slide, or we can use an eraser to manually erase certain bits, right? And when we end a slideshow, it might ask us whether we want to keep or discard, as we just saw. Well, if you don't want them, you can discard, but if you keep them, just know it will become a part of your slide. So those markings will be on your slideshow, right? So that's another thing to weigh and consider whether you need that or not. But yeah. Then we have presenter view. So if we're presenting a slideshow with a second display, uh, like a projector, we can use a presenter view. And presenter view gives us access to a special set of controls on screen that the audience won't see, right? So we can reference slide notes, preview the upcoming slide, and whatnot. So to access our presenter view, start the slideshow as you normally would, then click slide options here and show presenter view, right? And we can also press Alt F5 to start it, and then we'll see this, right? So let's just, again, just go back into it. And it will load up on the other monitor, but I will sort of bring it in here, right? And this is what the presenter view looks like again, right? So again, we have our slide pane, our next slide, right? We can also sort of view thumbnails and skip 2 slides in an odd order. We can cut the screen off, add captions again, all that, right? So it does sort of make it much, much easier, I'd say, to present. So that's another thing worth considering. And also, if you do present often, I do recommend practicing with presenter view, because it does legitimately give you a lot of value. Now we have slideshow startup options. So PowerPoint has setup options. So PowerPoint has various options for setting up and playing a slideshow. For example, you can set up an unattended presentation that can be displayed at a kiosk and make your slideshow repeat with continuous looping. To do this, we go to the slideshow tab, then select the setup slideshow command. Then this dialog box will appear, and then we can sort of select the options we want, right? And to advance slides automatically, again, if you remember, we can customize the slide timings on our transition tab. And now, moving on. All right, everyone. All right, so now we're talking about lists, right? And as we remember, lists are very, very important to PowerPoint. Arguably, I guess for text speaking, one of the more important parts of PowerPoint, right? And basically, to create effective presentations, it is very, very important to sort of make your presentations easy to read. And one of the most sort of common ways to do this is to format the text as what we call a bulleted or numbered list, right? By default, when we type text into a placeholder, a bullet is placed at the beginning of each paragraph, automatically creating a bulleted list. If you want, you can modify a list by choosing a different bullet style or by switching to sort of a numbered list. Now, to modify the bullet style, we select an existing list we want to format. Then on the Home tab, we click the bullets drop-down arrow, select the desired bullet from the style menu that appears, and then a bullet style will appear in sort of the list, right? So let's just go here. Let's just show you what that looks like really quickly, right? So it'd be this, right? So we deselected it, but we can click on it and open it up again, right? Then also to modify it, right? Again, click here and sort of to change it, right? Because now it's like that square block. To modify a numbered list, it's the same thing, right? Process-wise, but we just click on the drop-down for the numbering panel, right? And then select your desired way of numbering. Obviously, if we remember, relative to, how do I say this? Yes, relative to bulleted lists, numbered lists does have less customization. Why? Because again, the formatting for numbers is very stringent, right? It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D. There's not many other ways to sort of express a numbered list. Whereas, with the bulleted list, of course, we could just change the bullet, right? Like sky's essentially the limit. Now, to change the starting number, because sometimes, let's say we have a list that should be taking place over 2 slides. So let's say we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Then on the next slide, we want sort of it to be 5, 6, 7, 8, right? To act as a direct continuation from another slide, we can do that. So we select an existing numbered list. On the Home tab, click the numbering drop-down arrow. Select the bullets and numbering, and then we'll see the start at field, and then we can change it to sort of our starting number, right? oops. Right, so if we go here, then let's just make it a numbered list, and we go bullets and numbering, right, and then start at, we'll just do 5. And as you can see, it starts from number 5, right? To modify the list's appearance, again, when we're using a bulleted or numbered list, we may want to change its appearance by adjusting the size and color of the bullets or numbers. This can make our list stand out and match the appearance of our presentation. And to modify the size or color, we select an existing bulleted list. Then on the Home tab, we click the Bullets drop-down arrow, and the bullets and numbering from the menu that appears. Then a dialog box will appear, and of course we can change the size, right? And we can change the color as well, and click OK. So let's take a look at that again. Right here, let's do bulleted list. Same thing with numbered as well. So we could change the size, and we can even change the color. Click OK, and now you can see. Let's do a better example. Right, now we can see that, right? So that's how you sort of customize it. Again, pretty straightforward, right? No real surprises there. Now, in terms of customizing the look of bullets in our list, it can help us sort of emphasize certain list items or personalize the design of our list. A common way to customize bullets is to use symbols. To use symbols as a bullet, we select an existing bulleted list, and on the Home tab, we click the Bullets drop-down arrow. Then we select Bullets and Numbering from the menu that appears. A dialog box will appear. Then on the Bulleted tab, we click Customize, and then the symbol dialog box will appear. Then we click the Font drop-down box and select a font, right? Whether this is Wingdings, right? And symbol fonts, they are good choices because they have a lot of useful symbols. Then we'll select our desired symbol and click OK, right? So let's just go through this again. So let's change the way this looks. So we'll go to Bullets and Numbering, right? We can go to Customize, and now we can go to whatever library. Let's just go Wingdings. Let's just select a clock, click OK, and click OK again. Now it's been changed to a clock, right? OK. And then we have our Let's Try section, which we already went into. And now let's talk about indents, right? Oops. So indents and line spacing are two important features we can use to change the way our text appears on sort of a slide. Indents can be used to create multi-level lists or to visually set paragraphs apart from one another. Line spacing can be adjusted to improve readability or to fit more lines on a slide. Indenting helps to format the layout of the text so it appears more organized on our slide. And the fastest way to indent is to use the Tab key. An alternative method is to use one of the indent commands, and with these commands we can either increase or decrease the indent. To indent, we can use the Tab key, right? So we put our text at sort of the beginning of a section and press Tab, right? And to indent using the indent commands, we could sort of go to this right here and sort of increase the indent. And if we want to decrease the list level, we can click on this or press Shift Tab. So let's showcase an example of that. So let's go here. We see Tab, it keeps indenting it, but we can press Shift Tab to decrease it, and here's increase, pressing the button, and now we can also decrease, right? We can also adjust indents, right? So sometimes you may want to adjust the indents in your presentations. You can do this by moving the indent markers on the ruler, and by default, the ruler is hidden, so you'll first need to show the ruler, and again, that's in the View tab. Then we can click on the ruler button. And we have indent markers. So indent markers are located to the left of the horizontal ruler, and they provide several indentation options. So at the top, right here, we have the first line indent marker, and this adjusts sort of the first line of a paragraph. Here, we have the hanging indent marker, right? And this sort of adjusts every line for the paragraph except for the first line. Then we have the left indent marker, which moves both the first line indent and sort of the hanging indent markers at the same time, essentially indenting all lines in a paragraph. Then, to indent using indent markers, we place the insertion point anywhere we want in the paragraph, which we want to indent, right? Then go to the desired indent marker and sort of click and drag it, right? And it will shift for you. Then also another thing is bullet spacing. So when working with lists, PowerPoint allows us to adjust the space between bullets and text by using first line indent marker and the hanging indent marker, right? So to change the bullet spacing, we select the lines we want to change, then go to the desired indent marker, and in our example, we'll use the hanging indent marker. We'll click and drag the indent marker as needed, and when we're done, the bullet spacing will sort of be adjusted. We can also adjust the amount of space between each line in the list or paragraph, and we can reduce the line spacing to fit more lines on a slide, or we can increase it to improve readability. In some instances, PowerPoint may automatically change the font size when we adjust the line spacing, so increasing the line spacing too much may cause the text to be too small. So to format line spacing, we select the text we want to format, then on the Home tab, locate the paragraph group, click the line spacing command, then select the desired line spacing option from the menu, and the line spacing will be updated. So in terms of that, let's just write text, right? And we can just highlight and watch. If we change the line spacing here, as you can see, it expands, right? It gets bigger. Now we're talking about inserting a picture. So as we mentioned, adding a picture can make our presentations more interesting and engaging. And we can insert a picture from a file on our computer onto any slide. PowerPoint even includes tools for finding online pictures and adding screenshots to our presentation. So to insert a picture from a file, again, we go to the Insert tab, then we click on the Pictures drop down, right? And then we could do from this PC, and we locate and select our image file, click Insert, and it will appear, right? We can also insert online pictures. So if we want to find a picture online, we could sort of do that. Again, it says Bing image search and also OneDrive. So we can insert it into OneDrive, and if we remember, how we insert it into OneDrive is we go to our File Explorer, and we can access OneDrive from there exactly, right? And I will show you how that works, right? And to insert an online picture, we go to Insert, then we go to Pictures and go Online, so stock image or online. Then you search up your sort of image in the search bar, and then select your image and click Insert. So let's just take a look at it. So if we go Insert, right, we can go to Pictures. So again, this device, it opens up sort of Pictures, right, and then also up here's OneDrive, right? So that's that. Alternatively, we could also go like stock images or online images. And online images is very, very straightforward. Again, we just select our image, right? And insert, right? So that's perfect, right? And again, for moving and resizing pictures, to select a picture, we can select it and then it will be automatically selected. We can resize by dragging the corners. To rotate a picture, we can click and drag the arrow above an image to rotate it left or right. To move a picture, we can click and drag to move a picture to a new location on a slide. And finally, we can select the picture we want to delete and then click and then backspace or press the delete key on our keyboard, right? Also screenshots, right? So now I guess the question is, why do we think a screenshot is? And I know this is an uncharacteristically long question, or this is an uncharacteristic question in the context of the review, but we'll give it 2 minutes, everyone. What do we think the value of a screenshot is? What sort of things could we use a screenshot for, everyone? What do we think? What do we think, everyone? Okay. Well, there are a lot of reasons why we want to add screenshots, right? So let's say we're like offering a tutorial and want to show off steps, or we want to sort of express something that's in our computer, right? We could use a screenshot from that, right? And how do we do that? We click on the screenshot button, right? And then click the screenshot command in the images group, right? And then the available windows will show. So this is one. Then maybe you have another sort of monitor open. You can also click on that, and the screenshot will then appear on your slide, right? Or we can go to screen clipping if we want more sort of control, right? So go screen clipping, and we'll get a view of the other windows, and we can sort of, I guess, like click and drag and sort of do a snapshot. So in terms of what that looks like, let's do it, right? So go to insert, screenshot, and then we can see my available windows. So if I click available windows, it'll do the slide I have open, it'll do that, right? But let's say if I want to do a clipping, what's the difference? Well, clipping gives me more control over showing my screen. And mind you, it might be formatted incorrect, right? But yeah, so it did format incorrect. So I apologize for that. But that's how you do it. On a regular computer, it should work completely fine, right? Now, there are a variety of sort of ways to format the pictures in our slideshow. The picture tools in PowerPoint make it easy to personalize and modify the images in interesting ways. And PowerPoint allows us to change the picture style and shape, add a border, crop, and compress images. So to crop an image, again, we click on an image, then we go to the Format tab. In this case, it'll show the Picture Format tab. That's what we'll see. Then we go all the way to the right, I believe, and you'll see the crop command, right? Then what we see once we click this is that we'll see like bars, right? And we can basically click and drag one of the handles to crop the image. We just want to make sure the mouse is right over the black cropping handle so you don't accidentally select a resizing handle. And we can click the crop command again, and the image will be cropped. To crop an image to a shape, we select the image we want to crop, then click the Format tab. Then we see Crop to Shape, and then select the desired shape from the drop-down menu that appears. The image will then appear formatted as the shape. We can also add a border. Again, we go to the Picture Border command, we'll get a drop-down menu, and then from here we could sort of select a weight, right? What type of line, whether we want to add dashes along with color, right? And you can add that as well. PowerPoint also offers several options for changing the way images appear in our slideshow. For example, you can add a frame, make image corrections, change the image's color or brightness, and even add some stylish artistic effects. These options are located in the Adjust and Picture Styles groups on the Format tab. And we're ready to make adjustments or experiment with the look of an image. Select the picture and choose one of the options from the Format tab. And here, first we have corrections up right here. Again, Format tab, corrections. And again, we can change things such as sharpen or soften the image, or sort of change the brightness and contrast, right? So again, just changing the visual look and identity of your shape. We can also change the color. So if we click on color, right, we can adjust the image's saturation, tone, and coloring of the image, right? So color saturation's up here, then we have tone and sort of recolor. We also have artistic effects. So again, in the format group, go to artistic effects, and this is sort of just think of it as like a filter, right? And then we have a picture styles group, right, which sort of, I guess, changes the way your image is displayed, right? Like you could have it in a frame, you could have it rotated in a bubble, etc., right? You could also compress sort of pictures. So if we want to email a presentation that contains pictures, we'll need to monitor its file size, right? Because the thing with large, high-resolution images is that it can quickly increase the overall size of your presentation, which then makes it harder to share, right? And basically PowerPoint gives us the option to be able to reduce our image size by clicking on the compress tab, right? Obviously, it might change the overall quality of your image, but generally it is a better sort of choice for reducing the overall file size, right? And to compress a picture, select the picture you want to compress, then select the Format tab, right? Then click the Compress Pictures command, right? and then a dialog box will appear, and then we could just either delete cropped areas of pictures. We can also choose a target output, right? So what do we want the output to be, right? Now we're talking about shapes. So again, shapes are a great way to sort of customize and add some sort of visual flair to our slideshows, right? And they're very easy to do. Again, you might not be able to think of like many cases, but you know, whenever you need a shape, whether it's like for like putting text on or it's just to emphasize something, it's useful. Right now, how do we do it? Again, we go to the Insert tab, then click the Shapes command, the Illustrations group, and a drop-down menu of shapes will appear. Select the desired shape, click and drag in the desired location to add shape to the slide. We can also modify a shape or text box. When you click a shape or text box, handles will appear, right? Of course, so we can sort of click and drag these, right? And these increase sizing. This one here, of course, is rotation, so we can click and drag to rotate it. And these yellow handles can customize the shape, so it changes like the proportions, right? If we remember. The proportion one is very interesting. Yeah, it is interesting. I don't know. I can't think of many situations where. Hmm. Yeah, I can't think of many situations where you may want to change the proportions, right? But should you ever need to or want to, you can by clicking on the yellow handles, right? Um, like in this image, what we see is we made the sun effectively skinnier, right? Well, if you have a reason why you need to make a sun skinnier, then in that case, it is very helpful, right? Then we have formatting shape and text boxes. So PowerPoint does allow us to modify shapes and text boxes in a variety of ways so we can tailor them to our projects. Of course, we can insert shapes and text boxes into different shapes, format their style and color, and add effects. So to choose a shape style that allows us to apply preset colors and effects to quickly change the appearance of a shape or text box, these options will depend on the colors that are part of the current theme. We select the shape or text box we want to change. Then on the Format tab, we click the More drop-down arrow in the Shape Styles group, and a drop-down menu of styles will appear. Select the style you want to use. The shape or text box will sort of appear in the selected style here, right? We can change it. So let's just quickly insert a shape. Now, how do we insert a shape? We go to Insert, Shape, and sort of, there we go, right? Well, if we want to add style, again, we click on image, get brought to shape format, and we can apply a style to it should we want to, right? Now, to change the shape fill color, we can go to the Format tab, then go to Shape Fill, right? And then we can move the mouse over the various colors and select the one we want to use. Then, to view additional options, we select the More Fill colors, right? And the shape or text box will appear in the selected color, of course. To change the shape outline, again, that's another one, same thing. Click on the Format tab, click on Shape Outline, select whichever option we want, and then sort of let it go, right? So let's just add one really quick here. It's a shape fill, let's change it to red. And shape outline, let's do black, and let's just make it a little bit thicker so we can see it. So let's just increase the weight, right? And now we've sort of added a shape outline, right? Which should make sense there, right? We can also add shape effects. So again, this is what we're referring to, like glow, soft edges, 3D rotation. And again, it really just emphasizes your overall shape. So again, shape effects, glow, right? And now we can add a glow, right? And of course, we can customize the colors that we want. You can also change it to a different shape, right? So we go to the Format tab, go to Edit Shape, Change Shape, and select your desired shape, right? And the new shape will appear. And if you want, you can enter text in a shape, and when the shape appears in your document, you can simply begin typing. So let's just go over that. So you could just type in a shape, and it'll do it. And if you want to change shape, again, shape format, edit shape, change shape, and let's just do something like that, right? And as you can see, it did change overall. In PowerPoint, each slide may have multiple items. So again, this is a notion of sort of that I mentioned about like stacking, I guess, or like having your sort of layer stack, right? And we might have sort of multiple pictures, shapes, and text boxes on one slide. We can rearrange these objects in the way we want by aligning, ordering, and grouping, along with rotating them in various ways. So in terms of aligning objects, when we move objects in PowerPoint, we can have alignment guides and spacing guides shown with these sort of orange lines and arrows around the objects to help us align them. However, if you have several objects on a slide, it may be difficult and time-consuming to get them perfectly aligned. Luckily, PowerPoint has several alignment commands that allow us to easily arrange and sort of position objects. To align two or more objects, we select the objects we want to align. And to select multiple objects at once, of course, we hold the Shift key, right? And then from the Format tab, we go to Align and click Align Selected Objects, and we can select one of our 6 alignment options. And the objects will align based on the sort of option you selected. Then to align objects to a slide, so if we want them to be aligned with a specific location in a slide, then we can do this by selecting Align to Slide. So we select the objects we want to align, right? And we can again press Shift to select multiple ones, right? Then from the Format tab again, we go to Align to Slide and then select one of our alignment commands, right? To distribute objects evenly, right? So if we have arranged sort of objects in a row or column, and we want them to be in equal distance from one another for a neater appearance, we can do this by distributing the objects horizontally and vertically. So first, we select the objects we want to align, and then to select multiple objects at once, we hold the Shift key while we click. Then from the Format tab, we go to Align Selected Objects, and then after we do that, if we click on the Align command again, we can distribute horizontally or vertically depending on what we want, but it will display it relatively evenly. We can also group multiple objects, right, so that they'll stay together if they're moved or resized, and it means that you can perform a lot of operations on one set of items rather than individually manipulating them. Like say you need to move around or you need to make shapes of one size, right? What you can do is you could just customize it, or you could add them as a group, sorry, to make sure that they're all sort of resized together, right? You don't have to manually do it. Any change made to one is reflected to the others, right? Pictures, shapes, clip art, and text boxes can all be grouped. However, placeholders can't be grouped. And if you will be grouping pictures, use one of the commands in the image group on the sort of insert tab to insert pictures instead of the picture icon instead of the placeholder. To group objects, again, we hold the Shift key, select our options, and then click Group, right? And now it'll show as sort of a collection of all the items with resizing sort of bars there, right? And then to ungroup objects, again, we can click on our object and click Ungroup, and then what you see is they'll be ungrouped and individually manipulatable, right? Now, ordering objects. So in addition to aligning objects, PowerPoint gives us the ability to arrange objects in a specific order. The ordering is important when two or more objects overlap because it will determine which objects are in the front or the back. In terms of understanding levels, when objects are inserted into a slide, they're placed on levels according to the order in which they're inserted into the slide. In our example, we've drawn an arrow on the top level, but we can change the level of this to put it behind the other sort of objects. Now, how do we do that? Well, we click Format, and then we can either bring it forward or send it backward, right? And doing so will sort of change the object's ordering by one level. If there are multiple objects on the slide, you may need to click the command several times to achieve the desired ordering, and the object should reorder, right? So again, think of it as I mentioned, like a stack of papers, right? And basically, if we want to make one more sort of visual, we can sort of move it to the front, whereas if we want sort of an image to be pushed to the back, we can move it down or send it backward, right? Now, bringing an object to the front or back, again, we could do bring forward to send backward, but again, think of like a piece of 100 papers. It will move it one at a time. And if we want to move it to sort of the bottom, we'll have to sort of press it 100 times. Whereas if we click on the bring forward or send backward drop downs and just click on send to back or bring forward, it will just directly bring it all the way down as opposed to you having to go sort of all the way down. Now we can also rotate objects. So in the Format tab, if we go to the Arrange sort of section, and we can rotate it right 90 degrees, rotate left 90 degrees, flip horizontal and flip vertical, which gives us a really good degree of control, right? So that's another thing worth considering. Now for animating text or objects, so we did talk about animations, but maybe you didn't know that you could apply these to text and objects like clip art, shapes, and pictures. Well, animation or movement on the slide can be used to draw the audience's attention to specific content to make the slides easier to read. As of right now, there are several animation effects we can choose from, and they are sort of organized into 4 types. So we have the entrance, so these control how the object enters a slide. For example, with the bounce animation, the object will drop onto the slide and then bounce several times. Then we have emphasis, so these animations occur while the object is on the slide, often triggered by a mouse click. For example, when you can set an object to spin when you click the mouse, right? And then we have exit, so this controls how sort of the object exits the slides. For example, with the fade animation, the object will simply fade away. Then finally, we have motion pass. So these are similar to sort of emphasis effects, except the object moves within the slide along a predetermined path like a circle. To apply an animation to an object, again, we select the object we want to animate, then we click on sort of the animations tab, then go to the animation drop-down group, then we'll get a bunch of sort of items, and then we can select one. One thing to know is when we add an animation to an item, it'll have a number next to it, right, and a star available in the slide pane, right? And this is to notify you that yes, okay, the effect is added, right? Effect options. So obviously, just like animations, we can add effect options, which sort of change the overall behavior of the animation. Which, if we click on this, we can make an animation come from bottom left, from bottom, from left, from top left, to top right. It depends. So to remove an animation, we select the small number recorded to an animated object or located next to the animated object, right? So right here, we click on it and then just press delete, right? And again, what I mentioned is animations, you want to be sort of cautious when you use them. You don't want to overuse them, right? So you do want to make sure you use them essentially appropriately, right? You don't want to do too much. In terms of working with animations, if we do want to add multiple animations to an object, right? If we do select a new animation from the menu in the animation group, it will replace the object's current animation. However, you'll sometimes want to place more than one animation on an object, like entrance and exit effects. And to do this, we simply just click on the add animation effect, right? Which will allow you to sort of keep your current animations while adding new ones. So again, we select an object, click the Animations tab, then in the Advanced Animation group, click the Add Animation command to view the available animations. Then we simply select the desired animation effect. Now if the object has more than one effect, it will have a different number for each effect, and the numbers will indicate the order in which the effects will occur. To copy animations with the animation painter, again, sometimes we may want to copy paste and apply the same animation to another slide, right? We could do that by clicking the object that has an animation, and then we can click on animation painter. Then we go to the object we want to copy the effects to and simply just click on it and it will apply the animations by itself. Then to preview animations, any preview animations you will have applied will show up when you play the slideshow. However, you can also quickly preview the animations for the current slide without viewing the slideshow. So again, how do we do this? Well, we navigate to the slide we want to preview. Then from the Animations tab, click the Preview tab, and the current slide will play. Now, the animation pane allows us to view and manage all the effects that are on the current slide. We can modify and reorder effects directly from the animation pane, which is especially useful when you have several effects. So open the animation pane, right? From the Animations tab, we click the Animation pane right here. then it'll open on the right side of the window and it'll show all the effects along with the order. If we have several animated objects, you may want to sort of rename it. And the reason you want to essentially rename it is so you don't get confused between different sort of objects, right? It's much, much easier to just add a name and then sort of deal with each sort of item individually. If we have several animated objects, it may help to rename them. Again, that's what I just mentioned, and we can rename them in the selection pane. To open the selection pane, we click an object, then from the Format tab, we simply click an object, and then click the Format tab, then click Selection pane, right? So right here in the Format tab, right? Then on the animation pane, we can click and drag an effect up and down to reorder an effect from the animation pane, and it will reorder itself, right? Then to preview effects, again, we can click the play button, right? And then the effects for the current slide will play. And on the right side of the animation pane, you'll be able to see a timeline that shows the progress through each effect. And if the timeline is not available, click the drop down arrow for an effect and then click show advanced timeline. Then to change an effect start option, so by default an effect starts playing when we click the mouse during a slideshow. If we have multiple effects, however, we need to click multiple times to start each effect individually. However, by changing the start option for each effect, we can have the effects that automatically play at the same time or one after the other. So from the animation pane, we select an effect and a drop-down arrow will appear next to the effect. Then we can click the drop-down arrow and select one of the three desired start options, right? So we click Start on Click, which will start the effect when the mouse is clicked, and the Start with Previous will start the effect at the same time as the previous effect. And the Start after Previous will start the effect when the previous effect ends, and of course we can preview this. Then we have the Effect Options dialog box. So from the animation pane, we can access the Effect Options dialog box, which contains more advanced options we can use to adjust your animations. To open the Effect Options dialog box from the animation pane, we select an effect, and a drop-down arrow will appear next to the effect. Then we click the drop-down arrow and select Effect Options, and then the Effect Options dialog box will appear. So we click the drop-down menus and select the desired enhancement. We can add a sound to the animation, and we can add an effect after the animation is over, or animate text in a different sequence. Some effects have additional options we can sort of change, and these will vary depending on what sort of effect we have selected. Then to change the effect timing, again, we can go in the timing tab on the effect options option. Then we can add things such as a delay or duration of the effect and control whether the effect repeats, right? Or whether it rewinds. So now talk about inserting a video. So PowerPoint does allow us to insert a video onto our slide and play it during our presentation. And this is a great way to make our presentation more engaging for our audience. You can even edit the video within PowerPoint and sort of customize its appearance, right? So like changing the trim in, trim out. So to insert a video, we go to the Insert tab, then click Video, and then we can do video from PC or online. And then if we click Videos on my PC, we navigate to the sort of video we want to integrate, and then click Insert, right? And the video will be added to the slide. And then with the screen recording feature on the sort of Insert tab, you can create a video of anything you're doing on your computer and insert it. Then insert online videos. So some websites, such as say like YouTube, allow us to embed videos in our slides. An embedded video will still be hosted on its original website, meaning the video itself won't be added to your file, so you would need an internet connection to play it. But it is sort of a convenient way to reduce the file size because the video is not saved in your PowerPoint. To preview a video, again, we click a video and then press play or pause here, right? And we'll see the timeline. And of course, we can click anywhere on this timeline to jump to that point in the video. You can also resize it by clicking the corner handles and dragging, right? So the corners, of course, will maintain your original aspect ratio, whereas these middle ones here will distort. Move a video, again, we can just click and drag, and then to delete a video, we just click on it and sort of click delete, right? So editing and formatting videos. The playback tab has several options we can use to edit your video. For example, you can trim your video to play an excerpt from the original, add a fade in, fade out, and add bookmarks that allow you to jump to specific points in the video. Most of the features on the playback tab can only be used with videos that are inserted from a file, and they don't work with embedded videos, right? And to trim a video, we select the video, then click the playback tab on the ribbon, click the trim video command, and then a dialog box will sort of appear. And we can use the green handle to set the start time and the red handle to start the end time. And then to preview the video, we can just click the play button. When we're done trimming the video, just click OK. Then to add a bookmark, we can click on the timeline for the location of where we want the bookmark to be. Then click Add Bookmark, right? And then from the playback tab, we can click the Add Bookmark command. Now we're talking about video options. So of course we do have some options like volume, so we can change the volume of the audio. We can change when this starts, whether it's navigating to the slide or will start on click. We can play it full screen, right, which fills the video, fills the screen when we watch. Hide while not playing. Loop until stopped, which replays the video until it's stopped, and the rewind after playing, which returns to the beginning when it's finished playing. Then we can also sort of format the appearance of a video by applying a video style, adding a border, changing the shape, or applying various effects. So we could create a poster frame, which in other words is what we call a thumbnail, right? So we click on poster frame, and then we could and it's again, poster frame is like a placeholder image for your video, and we can click current frame, which sets it to a current frame, or we can do image file, right, which is from our PC if we have sort of a better, I guess, set image. Then to apply video style, alternatively we can go to the Format tab and then click on the Video Styles More tab, and then we can see a bunch of different styles, right? And now moving on to audio. All right, everyone, now we're referring to inserting audio, right? So PowerPoint does allow us to add audio to our presentation. And we can always add things such as background music, sound effect, or even sort of narration or commentary, right? And we can always just edit the audio to customize it for our presentation as well. And one thing you're going to notice, this is practically identical feature-wise to a video, right? Of course, you're putting an audio file instead of a video, but generally it's the same thing. So now how do we insert an audio from a file? Again, we'd go to the audio, so insert audio, and then you can do audio on my PC. Sometimes you may want to record audio into our presentation, right? That's very much a possibility. Like say you want to do a narration of your slides. Of course you would want to sort of like verbalize it, I guess is sort of the way to put it, right? And as long as you have a microphone, you can do just that, right? So to record audio, what do? From the Insert tab, we click the Audio drop-down, and then select Record Audio, right? And then we type a name for the audio recording if we want. Click the record button and then start talking, and then you can preview your audio, of course. But again, if you are doing some sort of, I guess, like speaking or whatever, that's very important, right? Like if you want to narrate over your slides to do maybe like a recording or whatever, you can use this feature. Working with audio, again, to preview, it opens up like or similar to the video, right? Where once we click on it, we see a play and pause with sort of a length bar on the bottom, right? You can, of course, skip through anywhere on this. We can also click and move this audio file icon, right? And to delete it, we can press backspace or sort of delete on our keyboard. Now, editing audios, we can modify audio files using the commands on sort of the playback tab. For example, if you do add a song to a slide, you can trim it, right? So again, just like how we did with videos, and you can also add bookmarks. So for trimming, again, we have the green handle. So if we go to playback, when we click on our audio, go to trim audio, then we can trim it with the green handle to represent the start time and the red to represent the end time, and we could sort of drag them, or we could adjust sort of the values in this box and move on. You can also add a fade in or fade out. So again, right here in the editing sort of tab, right on the playback tab, we can add sort of a fade in, fade out, and sort of adjust it to what you want. And also to add a bookmark, we click the timeline to locate the desired part of the file, and then just click the bookmark tab and it'll add a bookmark. So let's say you're working with a longer audio file that you've inserted and you want to skip to specific points of that audio file, you can set bookmarks and sort of skip to them. Of course, now we have audio options, so again, very similar to the video options. We have like the volume, right? We have the start, so this controls whether the audio file starts automatically or when the mouse is clicked. We have the hide during show, so this hides the audio icon while the slideshow is playing. Play across slides, well, this continues playing the audio file across multiple slides instead of just the current slide. We have loop until stopped, so this replays the audio file until it's stopped, and then rewind after playing, and this returns the audio file to the beginning when it is finished playing. To change the audio icon, right, by default, an audio file will appear as a speaker icon on the slide. If you want, you can change the icon to a different picture. So you select the audio file, then click the Format tab. Then we click the Change Picture command, and the Insert Pictures dialog box will appear. So we click the Browse sort of to select a file from our computer. Then we can also use the online image search tools to locate an image online. In our example, we'll use the phrase music note, right? And then we can select our desired icon, click insert, and it will be changed. Now we're getting towards the end. So tables, again, are a very, I guess, useful way to display information in PowerPoint. Typically, tables are a grid of cells arranged in rows and columns, and they are useful for various tasks like presenting text information and numerical data. We can even customize tables to sort of fit our presentation. And to insert a table, we go to the Insert tab, click Table, and we can sort of click and drag to set the amount of columns and rows, and then it will appear, right? And we can type anywhere in our table if we remember. We can also modify our tables. So like again, we can click and drag between rows and columns to sort of resize. We can click and drag a table to move it around. Then resize, we can select a table and then sort of drag the sizing handles to get the desired size. Alternatively, if we do want to add sort of rows or columns, right, we can click on our table. Then we'll go to the Layout tab. Then go to the Rows and Columns group, and then choose our sort of commands, whether we want to insert above or insert below, or even insert one to the left or the right, right? So that's also another thing worth considering. To delete a row or column, very, very similar. Again, we can go back to the layout and then click delete rows and delete columns, right? Pretty straightforward there. We just select the one we want to delete and then select the respective command, whether it's a column, delete the column, and if it's a row, delete the row. We can also go to the Design tab and go to Table Styles to change sort of the style overall of the table. Of course, if you remember, these table styles are sort of more of a preset, but you can do that if you'd like. We also have additional options like header row, first column, total row, last column, banded rows, and banded columns. In order to select these, we select any cell or select all the cells in our table and apply these settings, right? So it will change the way your sort of table looks, but they do also format it better. And we did show sort of an example of what they all look like. So if you did want to review that, I'd recommend going back to the table section, right? In terms of adding borders to a table, we can add borders to help define different sections of a table. Certain table styles may include borders automatically, but it is easy to add them manually or customize them, and we can control the border weight, color, and line style for some or all of the table. In order to do this, we select the cells where we want to add borders, then go to the Design tab, select the desired line style, line weight, and pen color, then click the Borders drop-down arrow and choose the desired border type. The border will then be added to the selected cells. If you want to remove them, again, select the cells again and just go to No Border. Now we're talking about charts, right? So charts are a way to communicate data graphically. Including a chart allows our audience to see the meaning behind the numbers, which makes it easy to visualize comparison and trends. PowerPoint uses a spreadsheet as a placeholder for entering chart data, much like Excel. And to insert a tab, we select the Insert tab, then click the Chart command in the Illustrations group. A dialog box will appear, so we select a category from the left pane and review the charts that appear, right? And then we select the desired chart. A chart and spreadsheet will appear, and the data that appears in the spreadsheet is placeholder source data. We'll replace with our own information, and sort of the source data is used to create the chart. Excuse me. Right, and then we can enter our data into the Excel sort of worksheet, and then sort of any data that's included by the blue lines will appear in the chart. And when we're done, we can just click X, right? If we already have any data for an existing in an existing Excel file we want to use for the chart, of course we can copy paste it, or copy paste it into sort of the little Excel chart or Excel window that comes up when we create a new chart. Or we can embed an existing Excel chart in the PowerPoint presentation. And this may be useful when we need to sort of update the data in Excel files and we want the chart to update automatically whenever the Excel data is sort of changed, right? You can also use chart tools to sort of modify them, right? So let's say we want to change the chart type. Again, we click on our table, or sorry, our chart, then go to design, click change chart type, right? And then we can go through and select the chart category we want, and then select the specific type of chart we'd like, and then click OK, right? And it will change it for us. To switch row and column data, for example, like say we want to change the way our charts group the data. For example, in the chart below the book sales, again, we group by genre, right? However, we do want to switch the rows and columns, so the chart will group data by month, right? We could do that by selecting the chart we want to modify, then going to the Design tab and clicking Edit Data, and then once we click Edit Data, we can click on the chart again and then click Switch Row and Column, right? And it'll switch it for you. Otherwise, this sort of command will be grayed out, so you do want to make sure you press Edit Data first. And to change the layout, of course, if we want a basic preset layout change, we could go to Design and then Quick Layout and select the one we'd like. Alternatively, right, if we want to pick and choose sort of the way our charts look, we can click on the Add Chart Element tab here and then select the specific elements we want to include or not include, right, depending on what we want to do. Now we're talking about just Smart Art graphics. So Smart Art allows us to sort of communicate information with graphics instead of just text, right? And inserting it again is very, very simple. From the Insert tab, we select Smart Art, and we'll see a bunch of categories, right? So you really just need to select the one that you feel most aligns with your use case. So in this case, they're using hierarchy, and then select it, and then click OK. And then we can add text by clicking on sort of a shape, right? And you can insert it that way, right? That's one way to do it. Or once we select our Smart Art, right, we'll have this little tab open here, and we can sort of type in each bullet point, right? And then since we're using sort of a bulleted list for this system, we can't treat it for such for sort of managing these shapes, right? It's treated essentially as sort of a multi-level list. So to demote a shape, we can select the desired bullet and press the tab key, and it'll sort of shift it over to the right and move it down one level. To mode a shape, we can press the backspace key or shift tab, and the bullet will move to the left, and the shape will move up one level, right? To add a new shape, we place the insertion point after the desired bullet, then press enter, right? And it'll create a new bullet. Then to remove a shape, we can just keep pressing backspace until the bullet is deleted, right? Now in terms of organizing Smart Art from the Design tab, we can always use commands from there. So we can use promote and demote to move a shape up or down between levels. We have move up and down, so we use these commands to change the order of shapes on the same level. Then we have add shape, so we use this command to add a new shape to our graphic. And we can also click the drop down arrow for more exact placement options. Now, after inserting Smart Art, there are several things we might want to change about its appearance. Whenever we select a Smart Art graphic design, the Design and Format tabs will appear on the right of the ribbon. From here, it's easy to edit the style and layout of the SmartArt graphic. There are several SmartArt styles which allow you to quickly modify the look and feel of your SmartArt, and to change the style, select the desired style from the SmartArt styles group, and we can sort of choose, right? It's no different than any other object, right, in terms of customizing it. We can also change the layout by clicking on design and then going to layouts, right? And then we have sort of a bunch of different manifestations of sort of layouts that we can choose from and sort of make that change. Now we're talking about checking spelling and grammar, right? So again, what we can do is we can go to the review tab, click on spelling, and it'll open up kind of like the find and replace, similar to. It'll give us it'll point out the errors and sort of give us correct changes. And we can change individual ones, or we can click ignore all, and then add will sort of add it to the dictionary. If we want to ignore sort of an error, so let's say we have an individual's name that's spelled a bit differently, or if it's proper noun and it's not in the dictionary, then we can use these commands. So ignore, it'll skip this word without changing it. Ignore all will skip all instances of this word, right? And add will add it to your dictionary, so it's never really marked as an error again, right? Then we have the automatic spell check. So this is basically the default. For many people, this is the only sort of spelling and grammar reviewer they need and use, right? Which is fair. So when you make an error, we'll see sort of an underlined word. It's typically blue for grammar and sort of red for a spelling error, right? And we can right click on it and sort of look at the suggestions. Alternatively, we can add it to our dictionary here or ignore it. We can also change the way our sort of proofing or automatic spell check works. And we do this by going to the backstage view, going to options, and then selecting proofing, and then selecting what you want and don't want. Now we have comments. So again, comments are really, really important for sort of collaboration in the context of like any team work, right? And also it's a great way to sort of leave feedback, right? Revise things, constructive criticism, that sort of thing, right? And for example, when revising or collaborating on a presentation, you might want to make notes or suggestions without actually changing the slide, and leaving a comment lets you do that without altering the slide, right? To add a comment, we select a text or object where we want, or sort of an area of the slide where we want a comment to appear. Then we go to the View tab and then click New Comment, right? And then you can sort of type it in. So click New here and then sort of type your comment in, right? Also, viewing comments, we can just go back to the comments pane and we can just click so we'll see like a comments icon, right? It's just like a text bubble. We can click on that and we can see sort of the comments, right? If we want to edit a comment, right? There's like a pen mark and we just click on the pen, right? And then we can type it in. And to reply to a comment, we just click on sort of the reply field, type our message and click reply, right? To delete a comment, again, we go to review, select the comment and click delete, right? And then also in this drop down, we have the ability to delete all comments in ink on the slide or all comments in ink in the presentation. Alternatively, there will be an X mark here that you can click off and delete. This feature got sort of removed, so we're going to skip past this. Now we're talking about inspecting or protecting presentations. So before sharing a presentation, you do want to make sure you don't include any information you want to keep private. You may also want to discourage others from editing your file. So the way to do this is using the document inspector. So whenever we create or edit a presentation, certain personal information may be added to the file automatically, like information about the document's author. We can use the document inspector to remove this type of information before sharing a presentation with others. So in order to do this, we go to the File tab, go to Backstage View, then go to Info, and then click on Check for Issue, so Inspect Presentation, and then click Inspect Document. Then you'll get sort of a list of things you can check for and click Inspect. And then if it comes back with things it found, you'll see it with next to sort of a exclamation point, and then you can sort of take action from there, so like remove all, right, and reinspect. Alternatively, if we want to add some sorts of restrictions to our sort of file, we can do the same thing. Again, info, and we can go to the protect presentation sort of button again, and we can mark it as final, right? Encrypt it with a password, restrict access, and add a digital signature. And you click on it, and it'll ask you for confirmation. You just click OK and follow the instructions, right? Then just click OK, and in this case, they did mark it as final. So once they confirmed and followed all the steps, it was sort of marked as final. Now we're talking finally about themes. So let's say we really like the style of a theme, but you'd like to experiment with different color schemes, right? We can mix and match colors, fonts, and effects to sort of create a unique look or what we want out of our presentation. To select new theme colors, we simply go to Design, click on Variants, right? Obviously, there's presets here, right? And we could sort of select these presets, or we can customize our own sort of color scheme through Customize Colors. To customize colors, sometimes you may not like every color included in sort of a set of theme colors. And you can sort of create your own palette by clicking Customize Colors, right? Then a dialog box will appear with sort of 10 colors, and you can pick and match which sort of color schemes you want, right? And then also just give it a name, right? And then click Save. And then it's easy to apply a new set of theme fonts without changing it. And the built-in theme fonts are designed to sort of work well together. So again, instead of colors, we go to fonts, right? And we can select font. Alternatively, if we want a custom one, we can go to Customize Fonts, right? And then once we go to Customize Fonts, we'll get sort of a pop-up here, so we can designate the heading font and the Era's Light font, right? That's what we did. And then again, you just add a name and then click Save. Then for theme effects, it's the very same thing. Again, click the Variants tab on the Design tab. Go to Effects, and we can select a preset, right? And then this will sort of apply to our slideshow, right? And applying new theme effects will change different shape styles from the Format tab when editing a shape or Smart Art graphic. So it is important to note that this change will only change shapes that use sort of the subtle effect, moderate effect, and intense effect. We also have background styles that we can change. So again, sort of the way the background or sort of feel and look of it, we can also change that. So again, we click our variants dropdown, go to background styles, and select our desired background, right, and format it. If we want even more control, again, we can click the Format Background button here, and then we'll get sort of a bunch of other options, right? So let me just show you this. You just open PowerPoint real quick. So again, Design tab, Variants, Background Styles, and we can go Formats, and then we can go like Gradients, Picture, Texture Fill, Pattern Fills, all that, right? And we can just select it. Then, if we want to save a custom theme, right, in case we want to use it across any other presentation, we can also do that with ease. Again, once we've set up a theme, we click Save Current Theme. It'll ask you for a name. You type your name or the name of the the name of the new theme, and then in the drop-down arrow or in the drop-down bar, you'll see it in the Custom section, right? And that's something we see here as well, right? We see it in the Custom section because we saved it in our lesson. And that brings us to the end of sort of the PowerPoint module. Hopefully you learned a lot. I tried to be as thorough and sort of engaging as I could. I apologize if at points it felt long and drawn out. I just wanted to make sure you understood the concept, right? But I hope you genuinely learned a lot from this unit, because it is something I feel like a lot of people can derive a lot of value from. So yeah, I hope it was really, really helpful, and I'll see you in the next module.